Okay, boys and girls, for your information and edification, or just for a bit of fun, a little bit about a winch. In this particular case, the sail winch of B1226. Obviously, we've got a battery pack, which is just 5 AA's rechargeable, so 6 volts. The fancy El Cheapo servo tester. All the writing's upside down to make it easy to read for you. It's in manual mode at the moment. This, of course, is the sail winch. This one's had a rather hard life, so that when we bring this over here and we start to turn the knob, which is supposed to turn the servo, you can see it sort of does its thing a bit. But it's not always particularly happy. Look, no hands. Impressed yet? Okay. But the other thing we might notice is that this is about, well, let me see, about 2.5 turns maybe. So that's about 1, that's about 2, 2.5, so yeah, say 2.5 turns, eh? 1, 2, 2 and 3/4 turns. At least it'll come back to the same place, which is useful. That's what I'm interested in at the moment. I'm going to see if I can change it now so it turns more. Okay, disassembly time for the winch now. That I've obviously removed the drum off the top. I've taken out the screws, 4 long ones, 4 short ones. And first at the bottom, if we pop the bottom off, you can see in there that hiding under that piece of tape that I've used for packing is the motor that does all the work. Little circuit board here, 1 integrated circuit and a couple of amplifier chips on the other side. Tip that up. And you look really hard. Down in there we can see a potentiometer. That's a volume control sort of arrangement, which is gear driven by the actual winch shaft. I'm going to remove that in a minute. In order to remove that, of course, we've got to take the top off, and there's the winch off, and I'm going to remove all this gear train now. And then there's a couple of screws that hide in under there that actually let that arrangement go. Okay, disassembly of the gear train. This is not very hard, but they just lift off, and if you take a bit of notice about how they come off, it's all pretty straightforward. So and they only go in one place in most cases. Now, of interest there, a couple of screws there that I've actually started to remove. Those couple of little screws there are the ones that will let the actual potentiometer come out of the bottom and the gear train that actually drives it. I'm also going to remove that little clip there, which is a really useful thing. That's actually what drives the arrangement underneath, which you'll see further in. Okay, let the screws go, sort of pop things down through the hole there, and if we turn the arrangement over, maybe turn it around, may make the visibility a bit better if I can get my big fingers out of the way. And it all sort of comes out looking a bit like, see if we get some focus here, it'd be nice. There we are anyway. That's the gearbox with the potentiometer on the bottom of it. Also running around down in there is the little spindle gear that drives the whole shooting match. Okay, pretty nicely disassembled here at the moment. So we've got the winch body, the piece of tape that's nothing to do with anything, we'll put that aside. The circuit board that you can see has got one integrated circuit on one side, which would be a operational amplifier or something. What looks like a couple of power devices on that side of the board, transistors or something or other. The thing we're interested in is this potentiometer here and the gear arrangement that mounts it. You can see that there's one screw there. I'm going to pop that screw out, and I'm going to exchange that gearbox arrangement there for another one that I think maybe have a different gear. Slight plan change here. Took the screw out, discovered that the potentiometer won't come out. Need to take the gearbox apart a bit in order to let it come out. So here we go. Okay, bringing the light over a bit, taking the top off the gearbox. You can see there's a couple of gears there. This little guy here, who is very tiny. If I can find a picture for you somewhere. Can't work out where the lens of the camera is. You can see some teeth on the end there, and that fits in about there somewhere and drives that gear train. Okay, got the gear train disassembled. There's the couple of gears that came out. You've got the shaft of the potentiometer there. As you can see, it's just a nice smooth shaft, and that's a real good idea that it should be a smooth shaft, because it, being gears and gear driven, we don't want anything flat on there where it's going to run out of travel, because it's only got about a 270 degree travel. That I think should, with a little bit of persuasion, just pop out of there. Okay, that's got him out. There's the volume control that actually controls the position of the winch. The brass bit turns. I can't show you because I haven't got a third hand available, but you get the general idea. It rotates through about 270 degrees, and that's as far as it'll turn. It doesn't go around. Righto, so there's the gearbox that we took out, that one there, and this is the one that we're going to put in. I must say, I'm looking at it, that the gears are similar. With all the relevant gears, we put all the pieces back together, and let's sort of see how it works out. I'll keep that little shaft there because I've just mislaid the other one at the moment. It'll turn up, but set that one aside, and now I'll just put all these bits together. So we're now pretty much reassembled. Got the potentiometer back in there, got the gearbox unit back together. Only got to pop the bit in the top, and then it'll go back in the winch body. Got a broken off wire here from the motor to the circuit board. I happen to know where it goes on the board, that it's got to go on just about close to that corner there. That little shiny pad just there at the tip of my finger now. That's where it goes back on, so I'll just do some running repairs, put that back together. Got that wire repaired after a bit of stuffing around, so it's now time to pop this back together. If we look down inside there, if I can shine the light in the box in the right place and then put the camera with it, you can see that I've popped a little gear through, and I just need to set the potentiometer arrangement, that bit there, the little gearbox and whatever on top of it, and just screw things back together. Being assembled now, so there's the potentiometer sitting down in the bottom, the circuit board about to sit in place. Turning the unit over, you can see there's the little drive shaft and the potentiometer poking out the top, ready to have all the gear train. Okay, there we are, the gear train all nicely assembled. Make sure that it all sits down properly. The main drive gear with the bearing on the top, make sure it's sitting right down like that. If it's not sitting right down, it may not have a grip off that shaft. Final assembly stages, got it pretty much back together. Really does want to seal it up with a bit of silicone or something. If you look carefully around this edge, you will notice a very fine O-ring that I've managed to pop in around there. I'll pop the lid on now. Got the assembly coming along pretty nicely now. That join that's there, just at that point where the lid goes on, my personal preference, because that's very low in the boat normally, is to put a smear of some silicone on it. I normally use this stuff, just because I found some. It's wet area stuff, it's white, it works, looks a bit odd in some places, looks real good in others. Suits me. Also a real good idea to stuff a bit in around those wires, and also all around that grommet. You can see where I've been at it before with a bit of the same. Now, just need to put the top on. Okay, the wind's pretty much assembled. It's very cleverly mounted to the table at the moment with a couple of bits of tape just to stop it bouncing around, because it's very excited when you start to move it around. And got it still connected up here, so as you can see, really had no effect at all. Let's just have a comfort. Oh well, life's like that, I suppose. A bit of fiddling around that I discovered on the way through is that it seems to be issues to do with electrical noise on the circuit board or something. I'm going to hook it up to my receiver now and just try it with the remote and see what it's like. Okay, slight variation of the test setup. We now have the radio, which is one of the Hobby King, whatever it is, yeah. You know, one of those anyway, one of the cheap ones. Battery pack, the receiver that comes with it, which is just a standard one. Round to the actual winch that I've been playing with. That's the little tester, which is got the special blue lead that burns your retinas all the time, so they say. So play with the winch control. That's this knob here. The winch is sort of right out at the moment. Oh, that looks alright. You notice how it behaves itself nicely there, so it stays where it's put. If I'm lucky, it'll come back to where I want it to go. So we go around, do a turn, we come back there. Oh, isn't that pretty? That'll do. This is only a temporary winch until I get one, because all of my winches got wet or broke or blew up or something, so lovely. I'm happy. I'm going sailing. I'm nearly there. Okay, pretty close to the wrap up on the winch now. So this is just where it's been sealed up. This is the bottom. You should be able to see a nice line of silicone around there in the join that I've just dabbed it on, and I've smeared it around with my finger and so forth. Kind of a reasonable amount of trouble around the cable entry. Turning it over to the other side, you can see where the join is around there, that I've also been around there, and I might have missed a little piece in there that I just need to go back to, but I think I've got most of it all sealed up. Got to keep in mind, of course, that when the boat gets a bit of water in it, and all good boats leak a little, it's possible that the bottom end of the winch may be underwater, so it's a good idea to have it waterproof. And finally, while we're looking at the top of the winch, you may notice that there's no silicone around there. There is a bearing in there, and I suppose I could put a bit of silicone around that shaft, but I'm not going to. There are some people who would know about mixing silicone and gear trains. That silicone in gears tends to bust them to pieces, so it's pretty well protected in that area, so I'm going to leave it alone. I will put a dab of silicone on those screw heads though. 1, 2, 3, 4 around there, and okay, heading for reassembling the winch into the boat. This is the back end of a Hurricane. For those of you not familiar with it, the winch arrangement sort of goes something like that. We've got the winch drum that sits there. We've got this very nice cover that also doubles as the fair lead for the mainsail, and clearly the winch is going to go in the hole there. You may be able to see down the side there that I've added a bit of timber underneath there, that the winch was originally a very flimsy mount. Of course, a bit of buoyancy underneath. Also another bit of timber that you may or may not be able to see if we rearrange the light a bit somewhere here. Yeah, something like that. You can see that there's a bit of timber at that end, so for the screws to go into. So we'll grab the winch and drop it back in the hole. And see how we get on. Now I've got the winch partly installed. Put a bit of silicone under the ends where the screws are holding it down. As you can probably observe along the side here, there's a significant gap with this through deck mounting, which is a great place for water to go in. However, it seals up quite well. The idea is to put a bit of silicone along there, just smear it along, and that then of course is covered with this, which then sits in the silicone and spreads it out a bit more, and it turns into quite a waterproof seal, quite an effective arrangement despite the cheap and nasty. Pretty much the finished article at this point. I've screwed the top cover down, as you can see, in a few places that the silicone is sort of squeezed out from under the edges. I've tightened the screws, which is what I'm looking for. I'll just pop around and neaten that up. Put the winch drum on once I get some electrics on it and work out where the right positions are. Okay, here we are at the end of the repair job by the look of it. Everything nicely back together, sitting in place, power's on, and presto, wind it in, wind it out, all that sort of thing. Just seems to be having a nice amount of travel. It right out is just about at right angles, and right in is just exactly where it needs to be, pointing at the stern corner roundabout. Might need to come a touch closer, and we can tweak that in a bit like that if we really want to. Piece of cake, isn't it? Great stuff. Now, the only reason I can't go sailing now is it's midnight. Bugger.